We go through everything that you need to know about OTAs next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and thank you again for joining us for another tremendous episode of the Unbearable Sports Podcast. We're going to be breaking down the OTAs. There's so much that we got to break down from last week, so I'm kind of trying to whittle it down to 10, but we might talk about a little bit more than 10 because there's a lot of headlines that have come out of this. There's been a lot of things that we just need to discuss so that we understand what is happening to our Chicago Bears during these voluntary, key thing, voluntary OTAs. So like I said, thanks for coming back. Make sure to like, subscribe if you're watching, or download us on any podcast app that's out there. Whatever you want to listen to, we should be out there on it. Just search for Unbearable Sports Podcast. So let's get straight into this and let's start breaking down the 10 different things that have been going on throughout OTAs this past week. Like we said, voluntary. So there's been a good amount of people that haven't showed up that we will touch base. But the next time that we're going to have some OTAs is going to be June 6th, 7th, and 9th. That's going to be the next organized ones. Then after that, it's June 14th through the 16th. So a little bit of a break until the 6th, but still, just they'll have at least a little week off. But let's get started with the first headline. I could actually just cheat and say this is just the defensive backs, but we're going to start with the defense because I'll be honest, the defensive backs, they were the people that got majority of the headlines this week, and every starting position has a noteworthy piece written about them, good and or bad. So the biggest thing that people saw, and the first point is going to be Kindle Vildor was starting during OTAs. You've probably seen this somewhere, but basically Kindle Vildor, the beloved Chicago Bear that every fan absolutely loves, and I say that sarcastically, he was actually starting over Jaylon Johnson, not the rookie Kyler Gordon, not in the slot position, but starting over Jaylon Johnson. This caused a lot of people to go, wait a minute. What's going on here? Because here is this Jaylon Johnson, who was like our only good defensive back last year. Eddie Jackson was okay, but here we have Jaylon Johnson, who's been very good for us, and he's being benched. Should we really look into this? First off, it's May. This is very early on. This is a new regime. It's May. So to me, I jotted down 3 reasons why he might have been benched for Vildor. Besides the reason that it is just May. To me, one is that when they were talking about it, when Eberflus was asked about the benching of Jaylon Johnson, he talked about, hey, it's a conditioning thing. It's getting used to everything. So maybe he showed up a little out of shape. Maybe he didn't like that. But then a second option is also maybe he wasn't showing the amount of drive, the amount of maybe he was like kind of dogging it out there, like not giving it his all. And this defense is all about giving it your all. So maybe Eberflus was trying to deliver a message like, hey, I know this is voluntary OTAs, but you need to give it your all. So to me, those two could be a potential reason why maybe he was benched. That's more specific to Jaylon Johnson. But third, really is outside of Jaylon Johnson's control, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. This could just be Eberflus saying, I just want to see other people out there with the ones. What do you look like with other people around you? Because, if Kyler Gordon goes down with an injury, you want to see how does Vildor play with these other people. Yes, he didn't have a good season, and I'm not saying that Vildor is going to have a breakout season, but what I'm saying is Vildor is at least as a backup on a rookie-controlled deal. You don't mind that because you drafted him, or Ryan Pace drafted him. So like we said, cheap backup corner that you want to see do well. So maybe they just wanted to try him out to say if something went wrong with Jaylon Johnson, what would that look like with Kindle Vildor? It's all speculation. It's all May. Let's be real here. So like they were saying too, this is mini camp. don't go, or this is OTAs. Don't go too crazy with all this stuff. But it's just at least interesting. So we'll see what ends up happening. It's probably just sending a message to Jaylon Johnson, like, hey, let's do a little bit more out there. So I'm not too concerned at all about it. And honestly, if they trotted out Kindle Vildor, then we can all start smashing the panic button with this new regime. But it was just a nice little noteworthy headline. But let's actually go into the second point. And this is where it gets more interesting. And as a Bears fan, I start getting really excited about this. But the rookie defensive backs, because they had Peanut Tillman come in, and now you start hearing that Jaquan Brisker, our safety rookie that we just drafted, he's starting to learn from a Peanut Tillman, and he's using the peanut punch in practice. He's trying to get turnovers, and people have already been impressed and saying this guy is good. This guy is trying to, create some turnovers. Yet again, this is OTAs, not saying he's going to be an amazing starter and he's going to be a Pro Bowler, but it's nice. You'd rather see good things and glowing reviews from players rather than no news at all. So it's nice to hear that the rookies are doing well. Brisker's doing the peanut punch. Gordon, I think in the first OTA had 2 interceptions. I know one of them was with Simeon rather than Fields, but you see just the athleticism from the little clips, the videos, the change of direction, and this is why they got drafted. We can say it all the time. Like more and more details are coming out that they didn't expect him to be on the board, so that's why they went with him. But now more and more news is saying Brisker was that second person on the board, so they got their top 2 people. That's what I'm hearing, and to me, celebration. You got your top 2 people, and so far, so good. You'd rather hear good news than he's kind of dogging it out there. He's a little bit slow. So, like the good news rather than no news at all. But as I continue going down, like I said, every single position has a noteworthy piece. So, number 3, my third point is Thomas Graham, hopefully, and I'm hoping, can potentially win this slot cornerback position from Tavon Young. Now, Tavon Young, good slot corner, didn't show up to voluntary OTAs, and that could be hurting him right now because from what we're hearing with Overstreet, their defensive backs coach, he sounded like he was very impressed with Thomas Graham. So here's this guy that we did not see much last year, except for a handful of games. And now this new coaching staff is seeing him going, this guy's pretty good. He talked about his inside outside versatility. So I think that now a lot of people are just saying Young is going to be the starting slot. Now we're changing our tune saying, come training camp, we need to start looking out. Thomas Graham versus Tavon Young is going to be a legit thing. And also, it's nice to know that he was playing with the ones at the slot position. Young wasn't there, so that's why he got it by default. But you could have easily had like a Duke Shelley. You could have easily had somebody else out there. And here's Thomas Graham, who played the outside last year, showing, hey, I can do this too. I can play this slot position wherever you need me. I'm going to be there. And also, they talked about his dedication as an actual player, that he wants to be great. He wants to be good. He has that drive, which just gets you excited as a Bears fan. So I would rather see Graham out there because we also have him for a longer term deal. Like he's younger, we have him, and we should be able to kind of keep him longer. So I like the idea of having Thomas Graham as the starter, especially when Tavon Young has had those injury concerns. So it's good to know that we have this competition at that position. But then the fourth point, yet again, the defensive backs have taken almost 50% of my points. But the fourth point is with Eddie Jackson, Bojack, the person that some of us absolutely hate and some of us absolutely tolerate and like and support. I'm one that I support Eddie Jackson. He's just overpaid, and this is probably going to be his last year for the Bears unless he balls out. And what's good is, from what we're hearing, different insiders that have been talking to the Bears defensive backs coach, he's going around and saying, listen, I don't know what Eddie Jackson did last year or what you've seen in the past 2 years, but he's coming out here and he is eager to learn and he's helping people out and he's being a real student and he's doing everything that the Bears are asking him to do. And I think that just shows this level of maturity and this level of, oh crap, my job's on the line. I like this paycheck that I've been getting. So I need to put up or shut up. And this is nice because you didn't see that urgency with Desai. You didn't see that urgency with Pagano. And now he's seeing that urgency because this new regime, they don't care what you did in 2018. They care what you're doing right now. And it's good to hear that he really is actively trying to take that next step or basically go back to what he was in 2018. So it's just good to hear that Eddie Jackson, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, that he is doing a really good job fitting in with this culture of being a hardworking player. So, like I said, there could have been two different ways that he went, and he's choosing the right way. Just a good thing to note. And hopefully he can come back to his original self because he's going to play this season most likely, like a 99% chance he's going to be playing unless the Bears really want to offload him and get rid of him. So that's four right there, and literally every single position. So good stuff from the rookies so far. We have the little debacle with Jaylon Johnson, so hopefully he comes back. And obviously, then it's just old news, and we just laugh about it as OTA news. And then the slot position has some competition, and hopefully Eddie Jackson is buying into this new scheme, and they're buying into him, and it's just a perfect match. But let's actually go to the edge position. This is my fifth point, my fifth little storyline is Dominique Robinson. If if that name sounds familiar and you don't know who that is, that was our draft pick this year. It's an edge rusher, former quarterback, former running back, edge rusher from Miami of Ohio. Yet again, not a lot of big production from Miami of Ohio, just a very physical, good athlete that we added at this position. And the reason why I just have him as a noteworthy player, he was practicing with the ones. Yes, Al-Qadim Muhammad and Robert Quinn weren't there, but still, it's noteworthy that he's over a Charles Snowden. He's over a Jeremiah Tauchu, or even like a Mario Edwards Jr. Would they put Edwards at the edge? Well, they didn't. They had Dominique Robinson in place of that. And also, it's just good to note because here's a guy that we shouldn't expect him to play year one. He should have the Trevis Gibson treatment where Trevis Gibson's first year, he did absolutely nothing. We forget this. And then he comes onto the scene last year and gets all those sacks that he had. So we're not expecting him to play, but seeing him with the ones, yet again, OTAs, it's better to see him with the ones rather than with like the twos. So it's showing that hopefully he's just moving quicker and farther along than what they expected. So it's nice to see. And I've also heard too, just kind of pops. And yet again, they're not wearing pads. So you would expect an athlete like him to really kind of come up and pop on during OTAs, which he has. And also, this is kind of my in between takes. I will mention this as well. Quinn not showing up, yeah, you can kind of speculate and say, well, is this part of him not wanting to be a Bear or all that speculation? And every year, he doesn't really go to the voluntary OTAs. He has his own workout regimen. He's a veteran. So I don't read into it much, but I just get excited being like, well, what if he's gone? What if he doesn't want to be here and we could potentially get a draft pick? And more stuff is coming out from different sources that the Bears have been trying to shop him. So it's interesting. I think it was the Bears blog or the Bears goggles. It's one of those sources was saying, hey, there is some substance to this. So we will see. Are the Bears going to end up trading him? I'm all for it, but we'll end up seeing what happens with Robert Quinn. He should come back when it is mandatory OTAs or the more veteran mandatory training camps. So nothing concerning there unless he doesn't show up. But now we're going to stay on this defense. Like I said, the defense has a lot of stuff that's been going on, and we're going to move back to the linebackers, where the only noteworthy thing was that Nicholas Morrow and not Robert Quinn, Roquan Smith, were kind of trading off play calling responsibilities. That's that green dot on the back of the helmet. And they're kind of calling the plays in or talking to the plays during the inside of the huddle. And also, fixing some of the alignments. This is just something noteworthy because they're still not sold who's going to be the middle linebacker, who's going to be the outside linebacker. They really don't know the different positions. So Morrow might be more of that true middle linebacker that they have out there, similar to a Bobby Okereke type of player, and then Roquan Smith can be more of your outside. They're just moving them around. They're seeing who should be the play caller. I still feel like it's going to be Roquan Smith, but I'm seeing more reports saying it's going to be Morrow. But it's just something to be on the lookout for. Who do they like to be that play caller for this team? So just something to look into. And also, I got to say, Nicholas Morrow, there's a lot of people saying that this dude is a tank. This guy, he's the guy that's coming into training camp, and everyone's like, who is that guy? He's buff, he's strong, and it's something that you just want to see. You want to see somebody like that just turn some heads. So I'm more than happy with that, especially because I've been skeptical of Nicholas Morrow. So hopefully he is coming into camp in great shape and can really impress some people because he needs to impress me. I want to see it out there. As a Bears fan, you just hope for the best for any of these players that are out there. But that does it for the defense. Like I said, there's six right there. There's six people and lots of storylines because this defense is going to be very interesting. No longer in the 3-4, no longer under that Fangio type of tree. So it'll be very interesting to see what goes on with all these different players. But let's go to the true headliners, which is everyone from this offense. And my number 7 point is probably one of the biggest ones. This was our first taste of this Luke Getsy offense. Not a lot of people can videotape this. Not a lot of people can truly watch it. But what we're hearing from the players is that there's a lot of motion. There's a lot of rolling Justin Fields out. There's a lot of using his legs. And the offensive linemen are saying, hey, we have to run a lot more. Teven Jenkins was saying he had to lose some weight so that he could really kind of reach to the outside and be that mobile piece because of this more mobile style offense. And that's what I like hearing because you're hearing that they're moving him out more. They're moving Fields around because he's super athletic. Why not use his strengths? So it's good hearing that because that's also what we kind of were assuming with this Shanahan type of system where you're kind of moving more to the outside. So it's nice to know that, yeah, it's kind of confirming what we were expecting with this offense. So, like we said, moving around a little bit more from the offensive line perspective, shifting and moving Fields out more. But also, kind of number 8 is that Fields and Mooney have been turning heads. So Eberflus was talking about just being wowed by the accuracy, the deep ball. I think it was Flus or Getsy, but they were just praising a Justin Fields, or even like a Cole Kmet was saying, Fields is just taking this team over. And that's also the reason why you have Fields should have been the starter day one last year, because now you have this person who is a leader who wants to come in and own this team. Fields can come in and be like, this is my team. I'm your captain and we're going to right this ship and we're going to do well. And now he can truly do that. And Cole Kmet was saying he's different. He's coming in and he's understanding the playbook. You see the video or the photo that his friend took of him, of Justin Fields, saying, this guy's different, Chicago. You see him late at night. He's just studying the playbook. He's figuring out what's going on. It sounds like in OTAs, he's out there. He knows the playbook. He knows his stuff, and he's making sure everybody else is on the same page and everybody else is playing cohesively. And you love to see it. And also, if you watch the 1920, the clip that the Bears have when they're just kind of showing some of the stuff inside of the OTAs or inside other spots, and they're talking about like Getsy was going, man, Mooney is so special. He's way too quick. So you gotta love it. Just more praise towards our players, towards our good players that we're kind of relying on having a big breakout season. Now, speaking of breakout seasons, we got to go to Cole Kmet because Cole Kmet, this has got to be his breakout season, and he's my number 9 storyline coming out. A lot of people were talking about him going to the tight end camp where it's like Kelsey and George Kittle, but we need a big season from Cole Kmet because Cole Kmet, remember, we had Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham was the red zone target. The anytime that we're inside the 20, they're like, all right, bring out Graham. Graham's going to be the big body. He's going to jump up. He's going to get it. And Cole Kmet's just going to sit on the sidelines. And he's probably going to block some people. And if he's in the red zone, he's probably going to drop a couple touchdown passes. This is a huge year for Cole Kmet because if you remember Robert Tonyan is not good. If you watch the tape, Robert Tonyan from the Green Bay Packers is not good. He just literally plays his role, makes his catches, is in the right spots, but he's not beating people like crazy. Cole Kmet just needs to fill this role, be a reliable target, and you're going to see his production just skyrocket. It's a huge year for him, and he needs to stop being so timid or like kind of keep the training wheels on, and he just needs to go, and he just needs to dominate, and he needs to take this spot. And he talked about it saying, I could get cut at any time. And that's what his family has always, I think his uncle, one of his family members who was was a football player, said like, that's the way that you should always think. Like, I could get cut at any time. So always play hard. So hopefully Cole Kmet is bringing that this year, because if he doesn't play well, he could get cut at any time next year. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And now the last point, the number 10, it's got to be this offensive line. This offensive line seems now pretty locked at where is everybody at in the positions for this tackle spot. We already kind of felt like Larry Borom was going to be the left tackle, but Teven Jenkins just kind of confirmed it that Teven Jenkins will be right tackle, and Borom will be left tackle, and Jenkins will be the right tackle. And to me, I love that idea because Borom did seem very comfortable at that left tackle spot, and Teven Jenkins does seem more comfortable at the right tackle spot, especially when you watch his college tape. He's more of a natural right tackle. It seems to be his actual position. And honestly, when they asked, well, would you want to be a left tackle? Because left tackle seems to be the more specialized, the more headline type of position. And he's like, hey, I need to earn their trust. And that to me showed a lot of maturity, because you just need, this isn't the people that drafted you. You have to show and do whatever you can to keep your job. He also, Teven Jenkins was saying that he's, doing more Pilates, not drinking as much beer as he was, and really focusing on his body, which is what you love to hear. He was saying he was playing at like 345 last year. And he was saying too that the Bears last year was talking about, you need to add all this weight. You need to be huge. You need to be big. You need to be gigantic, because we have to impose our will. And now this year they're saying, we need you to be light. We need you to be quick. We need you to get to your spots. And so here he is going from, I think it was like 32% body fat down to 24. I could be off a little bit with those, but it's still going from the 30s down to the 20s, which is, you love to see it. He's hopefully going to be quicker, better shape. So I'm all for it. And he was saying too, the Pilates help him with his back so he doesn't feel any pain. So hopefully you can see some good production out of these tackles, because I tell you, I've been listening to a lot of people that aren't Bears fans talk about the Bears, and they always point to this line, and they're like, they're counting on these 2 second-year tackles to really take a jump forward. And last year they weren't great. Borom was borderline good, but he was very just like, solid. So you're hoping that these guys can really take the next step, because you also would have them on cost control contracts. And come on, you can't not love cost control contracts. So that about does it for our show. I hope that you learned something with this. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Follow us, Unbearable Sports, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I might be trying to get more into that. We'll see. But we have so much content out there on Facebook. You can follow us as well. Like I said, we're going to have OTAs on the 6th, the 7th, and the 9th of June. But then also some full squad mandatory mini camp June 14th through the 16th. But we'll keep you all updated. So make sure to follow, make sure to like and subscribe. And Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.